and we are recording.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I am Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And we are the creators of the Tornado Podcast. Hi, welcome back. We are here today with Ms. Jen Narramore from Tornado Talk. And we'll be talking a little bit about what Tornado Talk is and how cool it is. And we'll be transitioning to talking about the November 17th, 2013 tornado outbreak that included the pretty infamous Washington, Illinois EF4 tornado.
Okay, Jen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, guys. Thank you for having me on here. I'm so excited to just talk to you about Tornado Talk and then talk about this outbreak from 6 years ago now. But first of all, a little bit about me. I went to school for meteorology at Penn State, graduated in 1995, and worked 20 years 15 years down at the Weather Channel. Most of that time was in Atlanta in the radio department. And then in 2012, I started working for the Storm Report radio network and have been doing that ever since. So I do broadcasts of weather on different radio stations across the country. And back in 2016, the owner of the Storm Report, Dan Holliday, asked me if I'd like to start a podcast. And so we did, and it's called Tornado Talk. And we did that for about a year and a half, and we produced about 36 episodes that I know you guys have listened to every single one of them. Tyler, I think you've listened to them at least 5 times a piece. And
so interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together, a lot of work. And Dan stepped away from doing the podcast back in 2017, but I had really fallen in love with tornado history. I'm like, I don't want to give this up. But doing the podcast by myself was going to be too hard. So I transitioned to a more elaborate website all about tornado history. And since that point, I have grown the website to have about 400 summaries on different tornado events, all based on this day. So on this day, November 12th or whatever, and focusing in on different tornado events that occurred that have been on record. And then even previously, I've gone back and looked through Grazulis's book, Significant Tornadoes, and looked through the newspapers and written articles about different events. I'm currently working on a brand new website because we got some feedback on our current website. It's been a little slow to load. There's a lot of information on there. So I've been working on paring down some of the information, putting things in blog format to make it much more of a smooth transition, quicker transition that hopefully will be launched within the next few weeks. And so I will let you guys know when that happens. Our focus now really is on growing the site. So how can we write more summaries? We have guest writers. Nick, you've written for us before, because you and I have the same heart for the tornado history. Yeah. Really digging in, not just giving the statistics, but finding out what happened, what are the discrepancies, was the rating, is there a discrepancy in the rating? Should it have been rated higher or lower? And just presenting all that. We are not experts in ratings, of course, but just presenting what we know. Was there a tornado that was missed? You and I were talking about that yesterday. So really delving in and finding how many more summaries can we write? Let's just see what we can get out there and have people, give us ideas. I had a lady write to me from Ryan, Iowa. She goes, would you want to have all this information about this F4 tornado that went through my community? So I wrote about that storm and just getting all that information from folks and really making it like a crowdsourcing, community-driven website and just seeing how we can get it to grow. And so in that, and this is how your podcast came about actually, was we started a Discord channel. Now you're probably, for those who are going, wait, Discord is for gamers. Not necessarily. We've made it about tornadoes. And so hopefully you can see my screen here. This is the welcome screen of our Discord server. And we have about 35 folks who have joined, and we're hoping we can get more folks to get on here. And we just talk tornadoes. We talk statistics, maps, what was the most violent tornado. We've disputed some ratings and just had a really great discussion. We have a little weather talk server here where we've talked, like today we had this tornado out of South Africa. And so people were asking about that. Folks have posted some of their original weather photos. And so it's just been a really neat place for folks just to get on here and just start having a discussion. You get kind of lost in it after a while because folks keep going back and forth, and it's been really great. And Nick, I know for you and for me as well, we really got into a few weeks ago doing real-time coverage of the Dallas tornado.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun watching the news coverage on Facebook Live and looking at the radar, then seeing the tweets, and we were able just to talk about everything we were seeing right there with everyone in the Discord.
It was really cool. There was actually one of the folks on here. She did not live too far away. I think she was in the Metroplex area. So it was really neat just to kind of to talk to everybody. So this is our new thing, is to try to grow the community by getting on here and just having this, active chat that you can get onto at any point and just start talking about tornadoes, about different weather events, whatever it may be. So that's where we're kind of moving. So the next steps for us will be to get this website launched. It's been quite the endeavor to try to get things transferred over. And so I've been, working as hard as I can to try to get it done and present it to everybody. And hopefully folks will like the new website. And then from there, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I don't ever count out possibly doing the podcast again. I don't think it'll be something anytime soon because it's hard to put that together. Ours was very different than what you guys are doing. It was very scripted. We told a story. So kind of essentially what I'm doing on the website, we talked through it and put music and stuff. I may go back and do some smaller videos. I was doing that for the Stormfront Freaks forecast for a little while, and podcast, I should say, and then kind of stepped away from that for a little bit. But I like doing those too, kind of telling short stories of different tornado events like the Andover, Wichita tornado and what have you. So that's where we're at. I'm honored that you guys asked me to be on here and just kind of chat and stuff. So
awesome. Out of all your podcasts, because like you said, I was a giant fan of your podcast. I have to ask, which one was your favorite?
Oh man, probably I have a couple of favorites for a couple of reasons. The two podcasts that we did where I got to interview James Spann, because I have a huge weather crush on James Spann. I think
we all do.
He's amazing. I mean, he really
absolutely.
is. So our first episode was on the Tuscaloosa and, the April 27th outbreak. And so I got a chance to talk to him about that. And he just took us through what it was like that day, and he was really just so open and, the impacts that had on him and just trying to get the information so rapidly out the door.
Right.
And then he did a podcast with us as well, talking about tornado sirens, because he's fine getting rid of them, and so, but do we keep tornado sirens, so we did a whole podcast about that. The most powerful though, for me, was the Gerald podcast.
Yeah.
That one was powerful. We had Lon Curtis on, who was chasing and was on the tornadoes, the entire outbreak. And so he took us through the whole day. Mm-hmm. And then we had a gentleman who talked us through the damage, because he did forensic meteorology and went out and checked the damage afterward. And some of his descriptions were just frightening, saying that the tornado damage looked like someone had just parked a lawnmower and it was just sat stationary and the blades were still running. That's what it looked, because it moved so slowly. It was only moving at 5 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. That was like, but the most powerful thing is when we were tweeting out that we were doing this podcast, there was a woman who tweeted us and she said, "My brother died in the Double Creek Estates." Mm-hmm. And so I wrote to her and I just took a chance and I said, "Would you want to be interviewed?" And if she said no, I would have totally respected that. But she was like, "I can talk." And she gave the most powerful interview about her brother and the whole family. I mean, I was in tears. I couldn't even speak, speaking to her. And as much as we love tornadoes because they're so amazing, there's also that aspect of the horrifying things that they do. And so I think it's trying to balance that love of nature with the reality and how communities are affected and all that kind of stuff. So that was the most powerful tornado talk we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nick, you have anything you want to ask
about tornado talk in general? Yeah, so I know we were talking about some things last night. I don't know how much that you can spill onto this podcast, some of the juicier details. I don't know if you want to go into that or not.
But where we're going here.
Yeah.
I can tease a little bit here. I'm hoping to obviously to grow the podcast, but the website. For us to do so, it'd be great if we could get like just support from our fans. And so we are looking at, after the new year, of launching a Patreon to help see if folks would like to just contribute a couple of bucks a month to support us, mainly just to keep the website rolling. Find some ways to get folks to incorporate their ideas for new summaries, because we've only scratched the surface on some of the big events and big outbreaks that we can cover. There's so many F4s and F5s we like to cover, and going even into if there's an F2 that hit your community and, you know, that was an impact for you, we could write about it. We can do the digging and all that kind of stuff. It would be great if folks would want to try to support that effort. And so we're going to look into that, maybe find some ways to partner with advertisers or whatever to kind of give us some extra support to, you know, I don't plan on getting rich on Tornado Talk in any way, shape, or form, but just to kind of make sure we can keep everything going. Sure. So that's one thing we're looking at doing, is doing a Patreon after I launch the website and all that kind of stuff. And I'd really like to see this Discord grow. Part of the Patreon would be doing a monthly Tornado Talk through Discord, where we're actually on doing audio or video chat. So we'll be doing a live chat with folks, and let's just talk about an event or talk about something real time or whatever it may be, and just do that once a month with the Patreon supporters. And from there, I don't know, I'd like to focus in, I live in the state of Ohio, so maybe start focusing in on more specifically the Ohio tornadoes and what have you. But leaving it open to cover some of the big events. And I'd like to cover some of the events that have just happened over the past couple of years. You know, there have been a lot that have occurred. I mean, I'd like to cover ones that happened last year, or, you know, like the big Lawrence tornado of this year. Yeah. You know, we had a very active May. Yeah, there's a lot of events. I'd like to go back and see, okay, what did the Weather Service come up with their surveys? What kind of research has been done on some of these tornadoes that have occurred recently, and really gather the information in one place. Because the goal is, you know, is to hit those who are meteorologists, chasers, love history though, and you may not be a meteorologist, but you just love history, and just folks who just love learning, reaching out to students, you know, who are budding meteorologists. You know, I think all of us probably got the weather bug when we were little. Yeah. And so there's a lot of students that are going, I want to learn more about tornadoes. And so this would be a great place for them to learn how to do research, because they may not know all the different sources. And so we make sure that when we do the write-ups here, but a lot of them are written by me, but Nick has done several, it's all about the sources from Grazulis, from newspapers.com, from the NCDC database, SPC, all the different National Weather Service offices, and it's putting it all in one spot. So it's like a one-stop shop for your tornado love, and, you know, being able to read about a certain event. And the new website is going to be cooler, I think, too, because it's going to be more user-friendly for searching. So I have it all tagged in the blog by F rating, state, by month. You can then search by keyword as well, and it'll make it much easier to find some of the events that you really want to delve into.
Cool.
Yeah. So speaking of delving into events, you guys ready to delve? How's that for a transition into, that's my radio experience right there. It's all about transitions into the November 17th. We have one
professional on here.
Right.
Well, remember guys, I'm here to keep you in line.
Yes.
I'm like your mom, making sure, okay, kids, you know, we're keeping it to an hour.
No tangents tonight.
Exactly. No tangents. No, but you guys, you brought me on to kind of just talk with you about the November 17th, 2013. I actually wrote 2 summaries about the 2 EF4s that occurred that day. And so I've gone ahead and pulled up some maps, and I have some statistics and stuff like that. So I can just kind of review some stuff, and, you know, we could just start our open chat about this particular event. So Nick, you've got how the day was set up that day.
Yeah. So you can see there was a large area being highlighted for the severe weather outbreak. A slight risk from Louisiana all the way up into New England. A moderate risk from around the St. Louis area into western Pennsylvania and New York. And then a fairly large high-risk area. Usually, well, in the more recent years, the high risks have been more compact, maybe like half of a state. This fairly large high-risk area, and you can see down here for the tornado probabilities, they had 30% tornado probability with the hatched area, which the hatched means, if I don't know if you guys can make it out down here, 10% or greater probability of EF2 through EF5 within 25 miles of a point. And in this outbreak, there were 2 EF4s and several EF3s. I know, Jen, you have on your thing the breakdown, don't you?
I do. Yes. There were 7 EF3s and 2 EF4s. There were a total of 74 tornadoes on November 17th. So I know that the outbreak, I think there were a few tornadoes the next day. Nick, you were talking about stuff going through Pennsylvania. But on November 17th, there were 74 tornadoes that were produced that day.
Yeah. Do you want to show that map that you have?
Hey, you bet. Yeah, this is a map created by my good friend, Brandon Molyneux. This is an outbreak map of all the tornadoes that went through and their rating. We've got the EF4s here and here in Illinois, no EF5s, and then we've got the EF3s or the lighter green. So some of these were long track through Illinois and then crossing through Indiana, a few up into northwestern Ohio, and then a few further south into Kentucky, and then parts of Tennessee. So again, 74 tornadoes. You want me to go ahead and start focusing on the Washington?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. So the Washington tornado, I found a video. This is off of the U.S. Tornadoes YouTube. So is this showing up okay?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Yes.
We can hear your dogs, Tyler.
Should we go in? Yes. The answer is yes. So anyway, that's the Washington, Illinois. This is what the map from our website that shows the track. And some of the statistics from the Storm Prediction Center, the path length was about 46 miles, width up to 880 yards. There were 3 fatalities, 125 injuries, official rating of EF4, and it went through 4 counties, Tazewell, Woodford, LaSalle, and Livingston. Got the following statistics from the National Weather Service in Chicago. This outbreak ranked as the 4th largest outbreak for the state of Illinois in terms of number of tornadoes since 1950. And there were 30 tornadoes in Indiana, and that ranks this event as the 2nd largest number of tornadoes in one day in state history for the state of Indiana. That's pretty impressive considering how many tornadoes Indiana can get and how some of the outbreaks that have occurred there.
Do you know what number 1 is?
I do not.
Okay.
We'll have to delve.
Number 1
and dig in there.
Number 1 of what? I completely missed
it. Would
that.
Be what would be the number 1 of how many tornadoes occurred in Indiana in one day?
Oh, I see.
We'll have to delve into that. I don't know if it would be Palm Sunday. Maybe
I would think
that might have the highest number of violent tornadoes because
Yeah.
a lot of those were F4 or F5s.
Yeah. The other statistic they have is that the EF4 in Washington had maximum winds of 190. It was the strongest on record for Illinois for the month of November since records began in 1950. So tremendously significant tornado here. And just a few of the other statistics about the tornado as it went through. It moved to the northeast and hit Washington. It was an EF4 when it did hit this town here. And the width was estimated between 1/4 and 1/2 mile. And per the National Weather Service, there were 633 homes, 7 businesses, 7 apartment buildings, and then 2,500 vehicles were destroyed. And then it did continue to move into Woodford County through open fields. There were a lot of farmsteads that were hit. It had back down to EF3 at that point. And then it continued to weaken to EF2 in LaSalle and Livingston. And then it eased up toward the end of the path there into, looks like past this, into Livingston County, past the Long Point area. And again, there were 125 injuries and 3 fatalities. When I do the Tornado Talk summaries, I try to find the names of those who passed away so I can give their life meaning. And I just try to find all the information I can about who they were and what have you. And there was a gentleman, his name was Steve, and he was trying to get into his basement with his wife and then another person, and when the tornado hit, and he didn't make it into the basement. So reading those it's so tragic to hear some of these stories. But then there are stories of survival as well that come through, and just the sense of community when you start going back and reading some of the newspaper articles and different summaries that are written about what happened. It's neat to see how the communities really come together during these huge events. So I pulled up a few different images I thought we could just talk through. Here's some of the radar. These are the circulation tracks. These are the mesocyclones. Starting down here southwest of the Pekin area, going through Washington.
Yeah, you can see it intensifies right before it gets into Washington.
Mm-hmm. And then here's the TVS right before it gets into the Washington area.
Nice little donut hole there.
Yeah. And then I zoomed in on this one a little bit more. This is from the National Weather Service, Central Illinois. They have this highlighted with the debris ball here. And this is just as it was passing right through Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one that shows the velocity?
I do not. They probably
Okay.
have it. Yeah, they probably have it here. They have way more on their website. They have the reflectivity. They do not have a velocity mode. Yeah, just the reflectivity mode. We'll go through these here in just a minute. I blew these up here so we could look closer at some of the Google Maps. And Nick, I'd like for you to pull up your stuff too in a minute. You're looking through you can zoom in. It was the day after, right?
Yeah,
The
November
Google stuff
18th is whenever they took these imagery.
Yeah, I want to see that again. Here's some of the damage photos. I thought we could just look through, guys, and I mean it's obvious EF4.
Yeah, totally.
Trees are debarked. That car's just absolutely shredded. Tyler,
Ground scouring.
do you know what? Yep.
Yep. I was going to point it out. Don't worry.
Yeah, these are just
so crazy.
The nubs left of the trees.
Yeah.
Like the devastation, like the way it looks, it almost is reminiscent of Joplin a little bit, just because of it went through such a residential area. So there's just so much damage. Obviously not to the extent of Joplin. I'm not saying that, but.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. And then I went through the article. I've fixed some of the newspaper clippings, and it's sobering. I mean, newspapers.com is an amazing source, and you can go back and just look through some of the articles and just see what people wrote about and some of the images they took. A lot of it, you can see just the look on folks' face of just devastation and, like, what do we do now? They found this dog 9 days later. You guys remember that story?
I do not actually.
Yeah.
Not from this one.
Yeah.
From other tornado events, but not this.
Yep. 6-month-old puppy, 9 days after the tornado.
Oh my goodness.
That's just, it gives me chills. So then here is some of the path using the Google imagery. Just, I mean, it's evident. And then this is amazing stuff here with the swirls.
I just can't believe that. That's probably one of the best instances of cyclodal ground markings ever documented.
Yeah. And this is what you're going to show too, Nick, but this was also taken November 18th. It's just, the overall damage here. I think this is where some of the worst damage was found, was on this Flossmoor Avenue.
Can you guys hear that? The air conditioner just kicked on. It's really loud.
Nope, didn't hear a thing.
Yep.
Okay, great.
All good.
But thank you for pointing that out, though.
Yes. I don't know why you have the air conditioning on. It's 18 degrees.
It's about
Whatever.
75 in here.
So anyway, those are what I have to. So Nick, you want to show?
Yeah,
I'd like for you to
can,
zoom out on some of those areas because you can really get close on some of those.
What am I clicking on?
It'd be nice if you knew.
Right. Okay, here we go. I'm pulling up my Google Earth. So you can see right here, just slabs. You can see just the flooring is left in some of these houses. Let me turn on roads. We can see what road this is.
I was about to say, do we know what road that is?
This is Mackenzie Street. Let me zoom out a bit so we can. So right here's Washington. You can see the path through the farm fields even, all the way up past Metamora. So if we zoom in a little bit, the first instance of really violent damage occurs as soon as it hits Washington. You can see right here along the intersection of South Cummings Lane and English Oak, just complete devastation on this one side. And this is where people talk about how their neighbor's house is destroyed, but their house was left standing. You can see these houses right here. They only have minor shingle damage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was about to say,
that we can see from this.
Isn't that crazy?
No, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and then it goes up here. It strikes the golf course, and right here's the Tractor Supply Company. I don't know what this. There's some type of business here that's just completely destroyed. I don't know what it is, but see here it even damaged the Tractor Supply. And then it starts going through the heavily populated areas, and then right here it looks like this is probably where it reached the peak intensity along Mackenzie Street. Going up, you can see then going up from here a lot of windrowing, which we know that happens in some of the higher end EF4 tornadoes. And then even then here throughout these cul-de-sacs here off of Coventry Drive, there's still just a lot of empty foundations. And this is taken the morning after, so you can't go through and say, oh, the bulldozers went through and bulldozed it already. This was the morning after. So this was right as they were starting to do the digging through the rubble and starting to do all that stuff.
Real quick though, can you zoom back into that part?
Right here? Or back further?
A little, that right there. Zoom in a little bit.
Okay.
Actually, zoom out a little bit more than that. A little too
close. So bossy.
Okay, isn't it crazy how? Okay, what do y'all think caused this? Okay, so it's going through, and then there's those two houses
right here
on the top that are just obliterated, but the house to the right and houses to the left do not suffer that same damage. And it's a pretty, I mean, it's not far from the core, but it's a somewhat decent distance away from. I can
tell you though. So that area is only 65 yards wide. My guess would be that was a suction vortex, just touched down right there and then got sucked right into the core of the tornado.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That would make sense. I was thinking maybe it was just an intense, I don't know.
And it would have had to have touched down right there on the houses, because you can see over here, these houses have roof damage. Now, there might be other damage that we can't see because we're looking from above. But you can also see. It's amazing how high quality these aerial images are just on Google Earth, because you can see all the debris scattered through this field out here outside of the damage path. So then, and right here is another area of where you can see a suction vortex would have tracked. Let me pull up my pen here. So you can see right here what just went through. Can you see that little pen? So right there, suction vortex probably would have went through like that, where you just have the debris just all going off in that one direction and a very narrow path.
Nick, are you able to look up that Flossmoor Street or Avenue? Are you able to do a search for that, or is that going to be too hard?
I mean, I just saw it.
It's called Flossmoor, Flossmoor
It was
Avenue.
close to that Mackenzie Street. If you remember where Mackenzie Street was, it was right next to it.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to see.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah. I just want to see that whole area because that was the picture that I showed you that was part of the National Weather Service survey. I was just curious to kind of see the bigger view of that area. I just wanted to see what it looks like. It looks like that was in the kind of more in the middle of the track after it became EF4.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe the peak EF4 damage was in that area.
It's just amazing because usually whenever you see tornadoes, even violent tornadoes like this, the EF4 and sometimes EF5 damage, if it's that strong, only occurs in a small area. Usually it's 1%, 1 to 5% of the damage path, according to the one thing I read about. This was, you could just see, it maintained its intensity from English Oak all the way through town. And then even then up here as it was going through the fields, you could just see just how intense it was, how it left the marks through the fields. And this is now, we're looking November, this would have been November 17th. They would have already plowed the fields, harvested all the crops and stuff. So this would have just been bare dirt at the time, and it was still able just to leave the mark in the ground like that. All the way up. Here we go. We're crossing Route 1 now. See here, there's farmsteads that are heavily damaged.
Mm-hmm.
So this was definitely a very violent tornado as it went through the area.
It's interesting how the size or the width of the path, like, it varies a lot. Like, it changed size quite a few times, it looks like.
Wow. That was one of two that day. I thought we could quickly look at the other EF4. Not as much information that I could find on this one. This is also in Illinois and in the New Minden area. And so this one had a shorter path. It was almost 11 miles with it 200 yards. 2 people were killed. There were 2 injuries, and this was in Washington County. And so this was, I think, further south. It began on I-64, just to the southwest of New Minden. There was a tractor trailer blown off the interstate. The driver had injuries. The worst damage was just to the west-southwest of New Minden. There was a farm that was hit, and the damage there was rated EF4. So this is a case different than Washington Town, the city of Washington. There was, like one point that had EF4 versus several areas that had EF4. But only the foundation of the farm remained. And Joe Hoy and his sister were killed at their farm.
Was that the same farm that had the EF4 damage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they lived at the home, and that was on the farm. And so they were older folks. He was 80 and she was 78.
Tragic.
Here's the radar coming out of there. They did have the velocity for that.
Yeah. Now, is this a different, National Weather Service, St. Louis? So
this
that's
is St. Louis.
Office.
Yeah. And here's the farm.
That is a very good example of EF4 damage right there.
Yeah. Oh.
Tyler, do you have anything to say?
I mean, even just looking at it, it doesn't look like it was anchored. The house wasn't anchored very well, it seems like. And the floor is gone.
Mm-hmm.
The floor is completely ripped out.
Yeah.
You're wanting me to say EF5.
No, that's not where I was going.
I know that you're wanting me to say.
That's not what I was doing, but okay.
And this is a home in the New Minden area. A firefighter lived here, and he survived here. This is obvious. This is not EF4 here. This is probably EF2. 2-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Here's some of the other newspaper clips. This is a bell that fell from the St. John's Cathedral. So yeah, not as much information about this tornado except this horrific photo of the farm damage. So
that is crazy though. Not a ton of scouring right there either. Maybe on the other side though.
Very, very small path. Because look, the trees in the background, that looks like it didn't even touch them.
No, it was only 200 yards width.
Yeah, maybe it was
I
something.
Here's the
You were
starting
cutting
just
out,
near
Tyler.
64. Yeah, here's the start near 64, and then right north of New Minden, and then your rural areas northeast of there.
Well, luckily it didn't go through as much of a populated area as the Washington one did.
Yeah.
And it just skirted by New Minden, it looked like. But would have hit New Minden head on, it probably would have been just as bad as Washington.
Oh, yeah, probably. I have no doubt. See, I didn't really know much about the New Minden tornado either, so because no one ever talks about it. So
No,
Washington kind of overshadowed that whole day.
I know there were other tornadoes. There was one that hit Paducah, Kentucky. That was an EF3.
Mm-hmm.
But you just don't hear as much on it just because of what happened, the tragedy of Washington.
I'll tell you, though, why Washington got all the news was because there were not one, but two phenomenal videos that came out of that event.
Yeah.
People standing outside watching
people
it
like me and you
going at the last possible second.
Yeah.
So,
that would be me if that tornado was coming for my house.
Happened, like the news outlets went nuts over it. And so that's why Washington took over. But also, I mean, like all the devastation and stuff, sure. But
one video where it's the dad and his daughter, I think her name's Josie. Do you know what video I'm talking about? Where they run into the closet.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a chainsaw ripping through the house.
Yeah.
That video is horrifying. And then they step outside and
is insane.
Their house is just gutted, and then they go outside and their neighbors' houses are just completely leveled.
Yeah,
they were lucky.
They were lucky. They just got on the outside of it. I mean, their house was destroyed.
Gutted, but that video's the sound it makes is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris Lancaster's video, though, yes, it shows the most what not to do of what not to do's possible. But my goodness, that video.
Is that the one when he's on his porch? And then
on
gets
the
knocked
back
out.
porch,
Yeah.
And they're watching it come at him, and he's watching it come at him, and then he literally waits to the most possible last second to get into their basement. And I think he ends up getting hit with a piece of debris.
I think they said, because that was on, I don't know what it was, but it was on one of the Weather Channel shows. I don't know if it was Weather Gone Viral or something like
Alley,
that.
I think.
Okay. Yeah,
because they had an episode on this tornado.
Okay. Yeah, they had him on there. I think a refrigerator hit him and knocked him out, and it broke his hip.
I didn't know it was a refrigerator.
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and I might not be, but I know it was something heavy hit him, and he was in the hospital for a while.
Yeah. He was lucky he didn't die, because he literally didn't go down until his back porch was getting ripped apart. So, and then there's this one moment in the video that's crazy. The tornado's maybe, I don't know, quarter of a mile away, and then in the field in this backyard there's this giant piece of wood that just falls straight into the backyard, sticking out, and you can see like the dirt plume up because it impacted so hard. I'm like,
there was another video, and the tornado, it's from more of a distance. It doesn't hit that person's house, but I don't know if it was the RFD or the inflow wind. It knocks down a huge oak tree in his yard. I don't know if you saw that video.
I thought that was I'm forgetting Henryville. I think that video.
Oh, was that Henryville?
Yeah, that's Henryville.
Okay.
I know which one. I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah, that's Henryville.
Okay.
Yeah. And
just completely forget what I just said.
What are you speaking?
Yeah, I'm getting my tornadoes confused now.
I was about to say something and you threw me off track.
I am sorry, Tyler. That's what I'm here for.
Because I can't remember it. Oh, no, I was going to say, do we know what its forward movement was? Because that tornado was booking it.
I can look. Let me get my phone out here.
I'm trying to look on it right now, but I'm not seeing much. I just didn't know if y'all.
The Washington tornado?
Yeah. It had to be going at least 40.
Okay, I just typed in Washington, Illinois tornado, and do you know what the first thing that popped up on Google was?
What?
Rochelle. It's haunting us, Tyler. It is haunting us. Probably because I misspelled Washington wrong.
Rochelle.
Now that I have Washington spelled right.
Well, if somebody could do some addition and subtraction, and it touched down at 10:59 and lifted at 11:47. It was 46.2 miles.
Uh-huh.
How many minutes was that?
So 60 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, so I would have been.
At least the storm was probably moving 60. Tornadoes usually move a little slower than their storm, I think.
Yeah, so the storm was moving 60.
So 50-ish.
At least 50, yeah.
50-ish. Which is fast for a tornado.
And the damage it did as it was moving that fast was pretty impressive.
That's probably why some of the damage was so intense, is just because that forward movement just intensifies things.
Like a bulldozer just hit it going so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like and also I feel like when tornadoes move at that speed, their trailing winds end up being pretty crazy too. I guess because of physics. I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm not into the whole academic part of this, but I feel like when you put your hand or slam your hand through water at a fast speed, there's that wake that follows your hand. Do tornadoes work that same way?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's beyond our pay grid.
Yeah.
So, if any of y'all know, let me know.
Yes, we'll dig into that for you, Tyler. Yes. I'm not sure.
Where's my meteorology textbook? Where is it?
I got distracted. I was stuck way back in our conversation about the number one day of Indiana tornadoes. So I'm doing Google searches while you're talking. Okay. So I apologize for that. But so I mentioned that there were 30 tornadoes on this day in Indiana. And that was mentioned by National Weather Service Chicago as the second largest number of tornadoes in one day. Mm-hmm. So doing a quick Google search.
Indiana or Illinois?
In Indiana.
Okay.
June 2nd.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. June 2nd, 1990, according to CBS 4.
Okay.
37 tornadoes reported in Indiana that day.
That had the tornado that hit Albion. That was... very popular tornado video, yeah.
I have where is it? There it is.
Yes, right there. Right there. And the other one, that's the Tracy, Minnesota F5 also.
Yes, it is.
Right.
And then, do you know this one?
Yeah.
What is it?
That's Albion.
No, I'm talking about under.
Oh, that one. Is that Jordan?
It is.
Ah.
Good job.
Wow.
I know my tornadoes.
That's really impressive, you guys. That's awesome.
More to work, so.
Yeah. So yeah, June 2nd, 1990, Petersburg, Indiana was hit that day.
There was one that also hit Cincinnati. Destroyed a waffle shop or a waffle house.
How dare it?
And I know that one. They did a wind engineering study that the steel girders that were snapped off at the Waffle House were built to withstand 250 mile per hour winds.
Yeah, that had to be a suction vortex then.
Yeah. So back to.
See,
You're supposed to be the one that's rubbing us in.
I'm trying to keep you guys. I'm sorry. Made us go to June. I apologize.
See, look, she's the one getting us off topic now.
You're here to make sure we don't do that.
I know. All right. So anyway, back to November 17th.
Yes. So one thing I know we wanted to talk about, and I kind of mentioned it earlier when I typed in Washington wrong, and it brought something else up on Google.
Rochelle.
Yes. So, although Washington, and we're not going to try to diminish what happened in Washington, the damage there was very, very severe.
Mm-hmm.
The damage caused by Rochelle, and what was more impressive by Rochelle, it was over a more rural area as opposed to going through a fairly densely packed neighborhood. The damage Rochelle caused which was rated only 10 miles per hour higher than Washington, seemed to be a lot more severe.
But I feel like you and I have discussed this before. Rochelle was
Go back to 2 podcasts
over.
ago.
Huh?
I said go back 2 podcasts ago.
Yeah, but I think you and I we pretty much agreed that winds were a good bit over 200 miles per hour.
The ground scouring.
In certain spots, it's not the entire track or anything.
Yes.
But see, I had that, and then it's gone. So keep talking. Never mind.
Okay, so one of the reasons why there really wasn't a lot of ground scouring with the Washington tornado. But with Rochelle, it just turned that field into a pile of dirt with little bits and pieces of debris through it, plus that smart car.
I also feel like it would have been a lot easier to see with the Rochelle tornado, just because, like you just said, it didn't hit as much of a populated area. I feel like because I mean, we just talked about, we saw some ground scouring in some of the damage photos, so it definitely occurred. I just feel like it probably was hidden a lot by debris because there's so much debris, and a lot of it looked pretty granulated, which doesn't happen that often. But I feel like it's probably a lot harder.
Storm Talk. The one guy on Storm Talk who was there for Washington for the damage survey said the National Weather Service did toy with an EF5 rating, but backed off of that. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
But
we don't have to delve into that conspiracy.
Did they say, like, did this gentleman, did he talk about what areas he said were going to be rated EF5?
No, and that's what I'd have to go back and find it. And if I do, I'll post it in the Discord. I'll post it down below. But he did talk about how he was there for the survey. And this was a guy, not just like some random newbie. He was a fairly well-known person on there.
Right.
Of course, I can't think of who it was, but he does a lot of talks on their post on there. And that's what he did say that they did that. And I know from speaking to National Weather Service offices, sometimes when it comes to not necessarily the tornado ratings, but even just storm surveys in general, it all comes down to politics. And like we mentioned before, not the Democrat versus Republican, not that kind of politics, just the politics like it hits a county commissioner's house or the mayor's house or stuff like that.
All that just seems so obsolete to get involved with a damage rating. Like, I just don't I just don't understand why that would even be an issue, you know?
Right. Do you think folks are going to, if the damage is EF5, why not rate it EF5? I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Well, that happened. Was it the Harper tornado or the other one? There was one in 2003 and one in 2004 in Kansas. I'm not exactly sure which one it was.
Yeah.
But the guy who did the actual survey said he wishes he would have did the EF5 rating instead of or F5 back then.
Yeah.
Instead of the F4 rating. But
I know which one you're talking about.
They went F4 because they said based on the slow movement of the tornado. But the damage it caused.
Look at Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl was going 5 miles per hour.
Yeah. And then he said he wishes that he would have gone F5 instead of F4 just because the damage it did cause. It was 2003 2004 because it was the tornado that happened during the Attica tornado outbreak.
You said it's not like Republican or Democrat.
Yeah, not that kind of politics.
But, and I'm not going to go into this, but do y'all think there's any, like someone is trying to, how do I put this? Like, because we had this whole discussion on climate change going on, right? And if it seems, well, actually, I'm trying to think of a way to say it.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Like, are they trying to make it to where,
by going with a weaker rating to try to like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with that.
Like, do you think that's an issue also? Like trying to create a new narrative.
I don't necessarily think that's the issue there.
Because I'm just thinking, like, if you have someone higher up, because the National Weather Service is a government agency, so if you have someone higher up going, hey, we're trying to keep things under wraps, because, I mean, you have all
a
this...
lot of this
breakdown
stuff,
over
though, happens at the
hurricanes
county
that's
level
going on.
as opposed to the National Weather Service, the headquarters. Now, I know headquarters got into it with the El Reno tornado in 2013.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They cracked down and said you can't rate a tornado based on the RACS pool data.
Right, which they should have.
Yes.
That's
But-
another episode in itself.
Yeah, so I know the higher ups do crack down on some of the stuff, but I don't necessarily think they do it based on politics that way.
It's just, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like, there's not much difference between EF4s and EF5s anyway. So I'm just trying to understand why, if you think it's an F5, why don't you just give it the F5?
Yeah,
EF5
that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Like, if you have
Yeah.
evidence that supports that, then you have evidence that supports that. Just give it its rating.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I agree.
We have definitely had EF5 string tornadoes since 2013, which is our last EF5, official EF5. I mean, we got
Bologna.
Chapman. Well, yeah,
Jen,
That's-
you're supposed to keep us.
I know. Well, I'm watching the clock. You guys can keep ranting a little bit longer. And
Okay.
But the thing about Bologna is, and I have a special attachment to Bologna because that was my first storm chase ever. And I've read Tim Marshall has a great article on this tornado with damage indicators and stuff. And there's one instance where every house in the neighborhood was swept clean away.
Yeah.
That's the Plantation Avenue or something like that. It's something like that. Anyway. And he said, like, yeah, this was pretty crazy damage, but the houses all weren't attached properly. But he did say in the paper that this tornado was definitely able to produce EF5 strength. Like,
Yeah. He
no question
said
about it.
that the rating was a lower bound rating, but noted the plausibility or the likelihood of EF5 damage.
But it was a high-end EF4. He did give it high-end EF4, like almost on the brim of EF5, but it just never really reached there physically that we were able to see. But
now, Jen, I know Tom Grazulis chimes into your post about for Tornado Talk about some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Has Tim Marshall ever chimed in?
He has, yeah, very sporadically, but he does follow us on Facebook, and so he likes a lot of our posts. And then he'll mainly it's just short quips on, I remember this one, I did a survey on this one, or but a lot of it is just kind of liking the posts. Grazulis, though, has really, I'm going to have to go back through my tweets and capture his, because that's little nuggets of great info from him on.
Yeah.
I'm going to change this in the book, or no way there was EF3 damage here. I mean, he doesn't hold back on his opinion.
I know
so,
he said, and that's what I love about him.
it's awesome. Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah. I know he said because we were talking about the December outbreak. I don't know if we did that when we were recording or before we were recording, because that was the one that had the F5 in Sunnyvale, I think. Sunnyvale, Illinois.
Yeah, in 2015.
No, in 1957.
Oh, the 1957.
58.
Okay.
Yeah. He said that
I thought it was Vicksburg, Mississippi.
that was 53. But he said, I remember he replies to your one tweet about it, saying that in the book it's going to be F4 instead of F5.
Mm-hmm.
New book.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
from what he wrote about seems pretty reasonable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if it was Tom Grazulis or someone else, but they were talking about Topeka, the Topeka F5.
Oh,
and
1966.
Yeah. And how that probably wasn't an F5 either. I feel like all those earlier ones.
I don't have significant tornadoes beside me because I'm not in my room right now, so I can't pull it out and look.
Well, I do.
I know. Why don't you, since you brought that up, look it up real quick?
Yeah, get the big green book out, would you?
Scared.
Yeah.
Like my binding is coming apart. I'm scared.
Oh, that's what mine did, and I only had the OG version, the 1880 to 1989 version, and then it just completely fell apart. So
is it the paperback?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I found this in July, the 1660 or 1680, whatever it is,
1681. Yeah.
On Amazon for $99.
His updated book to come out though. I'm so stoked for it.
He's working hard on it. It changed his mind a few times, and I know he's I do what?
Okay.
I actually talked to him on the phone, and that was amazing. I mean, we talked like we were BFFs for like an hour and a half and just going back and forth. And he goes, yeah, I was doing pretty good. And then I started following this Tornado Talk on Twitter, and now I've had to change stuff, and they got me looking at newspapers.com. And so we've added all this stuff. And so it's changed him. Newspapers.com has, been just a tremendous source for information for him on some of these other events that he's written about. So I know he's working on it. I think it's probably still another year or so.
Yeah. But I'm really excited to see his write-ups on like our more recent, like,
I am too.
Like, I would love, like we joke about Rochelle. I would love to hear his view on Rochelle. I'd love to hear his view on Joplin. And
Tuscaloosa.
Moore, for sure. Both wars.
Yeah.
And all of April 27th, obviously.
Yeah. I'm interested to see. I don't know if when you guys were on the phone, if he told you this. Will he, when it changes over to 2007 in the book, will he do EF ratings for the tornadoes, or will he just keep it at F4, F5?
He did not say. Okay. He did not say.
I know in some of his tweets he still uses the F scale instead of the EF scale, so I didn't know if...
Yeah, he did not say on that. I know he's going to have it all broken down as he has before by the individual tornado. But I know he's doing, and he's mentioned this on his Twitter account about looking at more outbreaks and analyzing those as well. So he's really putting his heart and soul into it. And, I don't think he realizes how many people will actually buy that book. Or set of books. It'll be 2 sets of books. I mean, there's going to be so many people that are jumping at the bit.
As soon as it's available.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I'll be the first in line. So anyway.
It'll be like that meme, shut up and take my money. That's me waiting for it.
So where are we at on time? It's 7:33. Are we doing pretty good, kids?
Yes, we are. Now, it doesn't tell me how long I've been recording, but I believe we started at 6:33 and it's 7:33.
See, look at that. So, see, that's what a good mom does. Keeps her children in line, making sure you guys are doing good. So you make it to your meetings, get a good night's rest.
Yes, got to get up at 3:15 in the morning.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Have fun with that.
I got my Bang Energy waiting for me. 300 milligrams of caffeine.
There you go.
Holy moly! I don't know. I don't approve of that one. Wait a minute. That's
I'll also be drinking coffee during the day, also. So.
Ooh.
See, I gave up caffeine, so I can't do that. So.
You gave up caffeine?
I live on caffeine. I got my Mountain Dew right here.
Oh my goodness.
Nope, it's kind of blending into the background.
I know, it's like a big R.
Vitamin R.
Guys, thanks for having me on here. I don't know what's your next topic. Have you thought about it? We were talking beforehand about some of the big tornado outbreaks in November.
Yeah, I think since it's November, maybe we should do like the widespread outbreak. That's what that one, the 92 outbreak stopped on Tornado History Project. Maybe we can talk about that. And if you'd want to come back, we can definitely have you back again since you've written summaries on some of those tornadoes.
Sure. Yeah. I enjoy that. Talking with you guys. And yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, let me know and we can delve into it. We just went through the Veterans Day 2002. That was a dickens of an outbreak that day. It just, that was a 3-day, but that middle day on Veterans Day was crazy. That had the Van Wert EF4 or F4, I guess it was 2002. Yeah. So yeah, just let me know. I think that's awesome, but you guys are doing great. And I love this just format of talking, and I'm learning a lot from you guys because I know the storms, I know the history. I do not remember the dates. So the fact that you guys remember the dates so much, I think that's awesome.
We're making you spend all of your money too.
Yeah. Guys, for those who are watching, if you get on their Discord channel, beware. Tyler and Nick let you know what books they have, and then I bought them all. So just over the past couple of weeks, at least 6 books from you guys.
That's what we do.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us, or thank you for coming on.
Hey, you bet. You're welcome.
Did you forget that this is our podcast, Tyler?
I know. What a great way to end it.
This is what makes it us, though.
Exactly.
So.
Hey, but we didn't ramble on for 2.5 hours, so that's
always a good thing.
There's still time but I would probably hit the stop button soon.
Yeah, I'll just shut my laptop. All right, we're done. Just shut it. We're done. Okay. Is there any last remarks from anyone?
Follow us on Twitter at Tornado Podcast, Tornado_podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Join the Tornado Talk Discord. I'll let you plug that, Jen.
Yeah, Tornado Talk Discord. It'll be included in the link under your podcast on YouTube. The link will be there. But for those who are going, I don't know what Discord is. It's kind of weird. I don't know. All it is it's a chat area. We call it a server because it sits on the Discord server, but it has different areas to chat. And so we have just a plain old weather talk chat room. You get on there and you just say, hey, did you see that this happened today? Or, oh my goodness, I saw this article, or, whatever. We just go back and forth, throw out the word Rochelle, and all of a sudden Tyler comes away from wherever he is and he starts writing. And so it doesn't matter. He shows up. So it's middle of the night. They're talking about Rochelle. So no, it's been great. There's folks from all across the country. Yeah, really great conversations, and no shenanigans, no hate.
Some of my research.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's been great. Pennsylvania tornado hotspots from Nick has been awesome, and just doing just some history stuff. It's just a potpourri of weather fun. So it's just a chat room. A lot of folks are on here and they just probably just watch the conversation go by, but then there's other folks that have been chiming in and just asking questions. So get on there, and we'd love to chat with you on that. And there'll be a lot of fun Tornado Talk announcements coming on the Discord channel too. So
I just think it's awesome that when Nick's bored, he just decides to make a tornado hotspot map.
Yeah, I know. I think that's awesome.
It's like those memes where it's like no one, and then Nick. Here's my hotspot sheet. We're the smallest tiny corner of Pennsylvania.
It's great. So cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see you guys next week.
All righty.
All right.